Hi, my name is Keith, and I'm here tonight to show you and Sylvia how to restring some traditional corded nunchucks. This won't work for the ones with chains on it, but if you have these and are in your closet broken, this is the video for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things we're going to need to get this job done right. Okay, well obviously you're going to have to start with a pair of broken nunchucks. You probably got those in the bottom of your closet. We're going to need a little piece of Scotch tape, so you want to go ahead and get some of that. Now I tend to use fishing line to thread the cord through the nunchucks, but if you have craft wire, that would work just as well. Now you want to get some 1/8" braided nylon cord. You can get these at home improvement centers or hardware stores. You can get them anywhere. And we're going to use a 4-foot section of that. I have a small pair of needle nose pliers. I have a small pair of sharp scissors. Large pair of sharp scissors will work, just sharp scissors. A small screwdriver for clearing things out and poking things. I've got a Phillips head. You can use a flat head. It's going to do just the same thing. Then we've got a low temp hot glue gun with at least one glue stick. That's all you should need. Okay, so the first thing that Sylvia's going to have to do with this nunchuck is take the small screwdriver that we had talked about earlier, and she's going to dig around and carefully get all the glue and all the cord out of that nunchuck so that it looks like this one, and we're ready to go and get a new cord on there. Sometimes it's to take a few minutes depending on how good it's glued in there. Sylvia looks pretty determined. She's going to get that out of there in no time. So here we go. This is ready to go, just like the other one, and this is no good, so we can just get rid of it. Okay, so now that the nunchucks have been cleared of all the old cord and glue, we're ready to go ahead and get started. The first thing Sylvia's going to do is take her piece of fishing line or framing wire, whichever you're using. It's about 12 inches long. She's going to fold it back against itself so the two tips come together. Then we're going to take a piece of our Scotch tape, a little short piece, and wrap it around the tip to make it a little bit sturdier for poking and feeding it through the holes of the nunchucks. Let's go ahead and get a close-up so you can see what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give Sylvia a piece of tape, and she's going to wrap around the ends, securing those two together, and make a nice, long, sturdy tip for that fishing line to poke through the nunchucks that we're going to be restringing in just a second. Pretty simple, easy done, and ready to go. So now that she's made her tool for threading the cord through the nunchucks, we're going to take that 4-foot piece of cord that you cut off, and again, this is 1/8" braided nylon cord. So you're going to want to fold this in half, and then right at the center point right here, we're going to take this loop and we're going to thread the tip of it back through the loop that you created so that we hook that onto the center part of that cord, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and give that to Sylvia, and she's going to use the end that we wrapped the Scotch tape around to help thread that down through the top hole, and the cord comes out one of the sides of the nunchuck. Just want to go ahead and gently pull that through. Don't pull it all the way through, just pull it out to where you've got a good amount of slack. Then use the same threading tool to go across the bottom slot of the nunchuck and pull the cord through there. Now the next step is to just take the same threading tool and continue up through this hole and out, back out through the top. Okay, so now that she's got that threaded down through, across the bottom, and back up through the top, she's going to go ahead and remove the threading tool from the cord for now and set it aside because we're going to need that again in just a minute. Okay, so now that she's removed her threading tool from the cord, what we've got is the looped end going down across the bottom and back up out the top alongside the two ends that we left out the top. So we're going to take those two ends, push them through the loop, and then tighten the whole thing down so that loop goes down inside the top of the nunchuck and gets cinched up really nice. Okay, so now we're actually about halfway done with the nunchucks. That was pretty quick and easy. So what's happened now at this point is these two ends are not even, and the next step is going to be a lot easier if we even them back out. So I'm just going to snip off and make those pretty much even. Get rid of that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and grab that threading tool that we had before with the fishing line or the baling wire or whatever you have and the Scotch tape on the end. We're going to do the same kind of a loop hook that we did in the center of the cord, only this time we're going to try to capture the two ends of these cords as close to the ends as possible without missing them. So I'm going to go ahead and give that to Sylvia and let her take care of that. Okay, so now that she's got that threading tool attached to the two ends of the remaining cord, she's going to take that tool and use it just like we did on the first half of the nunchuck, thread it down through the top, out one of the sides, across the bottom, and then back up through the top on the other side. And sometimes when you've just got the two tips, they'll come out nice and clean like that. Sometimes you might have to use that little screwdriver we had earlier, just sort of nudge it back through the slots, because as we come back up through the top, we're getting 4 different sections of that cord running through a hole, so it's getting a little congested. I might have to go ahead and kind of coerce it in there and make sure that it just comes out the top. So once you get it poked up in there, it'll pull through. Like that. So now again, at this point, the first thing she wants to do is go ahead and take that threading tool back off the ends of that cord and set it aside, because we're going to use it one more time before we're done here. So just in case you've cinched these things up really tight on this nunchuck like Sylvia has, we're going to go ahead and pry some of that cord back out of the slots, because what we're going to do now is adjust the length of the cord between the two halves of the nunchuck so it's custom sized to your hand. So the next step is for her to start pulling some of this cord through to shorten this part of the cord between the two halves of the nunchuck, just so it's just long enough to cover the back of her hand and allow the two halves of the nunchucks to hang down evenly on either side. And that perfectly sizes the nunchucks to her hand, so now it's a custom sized weapon. Okay, so at this stage, now that she's custom sized this cord to her hand, she's going to go ahead and take these two ends and cinch that back up and pull that back up through the top. And you want to make sure all through this process that these cords don't twist and curve and they lay flat, so that they'll be nice and neat when they're all done. Okay, now here we are. We've got the nunchucks custom sized to your hand. We have the two remaining ends coming out the top. If you look down into the top, you can see that those other two cords coming from the other half of the nunchuck are coming out one side of the top, and the two that you fed just up through there are coming out the other side. Well, we're going to take these two ends, we're going to wrap them around the two cords that came from the other half of the nunchuck, and on the other side of that, we're going to tie a square knot. We're going to tie that really tight and push it down inside the top of the hole. We're going to tie 3 square knots and push each one successively down into that hole. And we'll go ahead and let Sylvia take care of that. Alright, that looks really good. Okay, so now what Sylvia has is the two ends of the cord coming back out the top of that last nunchuck. So she's taken her scissors and snipped off one end, and we don't need that anymore. We're completely done. She's gone ahead and gotten as close to that knot as possible without destroying the knot. Now we're going to take the threading tool one more time and hook it on to the end of this cord. Now the tape has probably been used several times now, so it's probably getting worn out. You want to take another piece of Scotch tape, wrap it around the tip of that threading tool, and make sure that it's nice and stiff to poke back down through there with. I'm going to go ahead and let Sylvia take that threading tool and hook it onto the tip of this cord and get it nice and close to that end of it as you can without missing it. And she's going to take it and thread it back down through the top of that original nunchuck and out the side. This is going to be a little tricky because there is a lot of cord going through that hole at this point. But that's why we went ahead and strengthened up the tip of our threading tool. And if you need to, again, you might have to use that screwdriver to pull it through, but it came right through. So we want to go ahead and take the threading tool off. We're done with that. Okay, so Sylvia's already taken her threading tool back off the tip of this. So you want to just lay that across the slot, tuck the end in if you have any, so it goes across the bottom and is nice clean. You can even snip off those frays if you want to, but just make sure you tuck that in the slot really nice. We're about to just use some hot glue to lay across that and just glue it down so it just is never coming back out. So the last thing she's going to want to do is go ahead and take her hot glue gun and run a bead of glue across that piece of cord that we just tucked into the bottom of that slot. That's going to secure the cord and make sure it stays in place, and these nunchucks will be just like they were when you bought them. 3 strands of cord across the top, glued in, ready to go. So Sylvia's gone ahead and restrung her nunchucks. That was pretty quick and easy. She's got 3 strands of cords coming across the top just like when it was new. It's hot glued down just like when it was new. These things are good and solid and ready to go. The one last thought I want to leave you with before we go is always, always, always give those nunchucks a good 3 solid tugs before you start swinging them to make sure they're not going to fall apart accidentally. And you can go ahead and have all kinds of fun spinning nunchucks. Go have fun.